again, in the entire 2 blocks of 18th Street. And, I came home because I was going to cook for my children, whole 9 yards, no lights. Of course, it's cold. Yesterday was extremely cold. And it was colder inside my house than it was outside my house.
Wow.
And so I told them, I said, y'all go pack a bag, go get something. So we can, So actually, I told them, I said, no, let's go to eat, because when I called Pico, they said we'll be back on by 7:30. So I said, okay, we'll go eat, whatever. Came back, I called again, 9 o'clock, nothing. So I said, we went to eat, we came back, I said, go pack a bag, we're gonna figure this thing out. So I took the boys to Katie's, because it was right around the corner, and they could get right on the bus that they normally get on to go to school, so that wouldn't be an issue. And took Chrissy to Godmom Keisha house, because she was, she had to work going downtown, no big deal. But let me tell you something, I didn't want to leave my house. I'm trying to tell y'all.
I hear that.
I did not want to leave my house.
I hear
But
that.
the monkey wrench was when I called and I said to Pico, I said, I can go back from November to up until now 4 times that we've had total blackout. And then we were without power for a day and a half. I said, y'all got to do something. I'm calling the Public Utility Commission.
At that one time without power for a day and a half, or collectively all together a day and a half?
No.
At that time?
Every time.
Every time, a day and a half?
Yes.
Wow.
Every single time. And I said, no, I'm putting in a complaint to the Public Utility Commission. I'm not paying no electric bill from December to January. I'm not paying no electric bill. So the lady was on the phone. She said, well, every time, we do credit you. I said, I have yet to see a credit on my account.
Right.
I said, now, if that's the case, let me give you my email. I said, you have my account number. I said, you can send me something in the mail to show me
the credits.
The credit.
Show me the credits.
I want to see it, because I haven't seen it. All I've seen is a $500 electric bill every month.
Yes.
Which is because I don't have gas.
Still,
I have electric.
That's a lot of electric.
Right. But I have a 3-story house.
If you had a 15-story house, I'd be like, oh, okay.
Everything is electric. Everything.
Maybe you should get some hamsters.
That's
That's a lot of $500.
Well, it's $450, $480. I rounded up to
All
$5.
your lights LED?
All my lights LED. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what LED is. No, I'm just kidding. But the point is, that was a monkey wrench. And I had to change, I had to shift so that, 1, my children could eat, 2, they wouldn't be in cold weather.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But
did we freeze, or is it just me?
We did.
1 second, I'm gonna check on my black clean too while we froze.
You froze.
Hey baby, you okay?
But at any rate, because I'm still on YouTube and I'm still on YouTube and still on Instagram. Instagram is a little bit blurry. Okay, we just cleared up. But at any rate, I still had to make sure
Black Queen
that things were
by any means.
Okay with the children.
Right.
And so we did that.
The children.
Right. They're still my children. I don't care how old they get. I had to make sure that they were okay.
Yes.
Yes. But still, the monkey wrench was every single time this same monkey wrench is being thrown, and I have to adjust every time. And yesterday I was really irritated. And I said to the lady, I said, I will not pay an electric bill. I'm not going to do it. Y'all need to do something. If you know that the lines underneath the street need to be changed. Now, what happened was the transformer blew. They could not fix it. They had to replace it. And she said, well, you know, there are old lines and they probably need to do something. If you're saying that,
Her boss just dropped his head.
like,
I promise you, her boss is like, you just said what to her?
but my thing is,
Right. So here's the great,
yes, please.
here's a
help.
great expansion on this thought, right? So then, here it is, something is happening to you, right? There's a pattern
Over and
of
over.
something's happening over and over, right? So there are, you know, of course it's frustrating, right? And it's appropriate. It's appropriate to have that level of response. But now what's the next response? What do we do then to respond? What's up, Erica?
Hey,
What do
hey.
we do? What's up, Chi-Town? Is it freezing there? It's freezing in Philly. It's gotta be cold in Chicago. What do we do to respond to this now monkey wrench? You know, it's funny, I was just having a conversation with my son and I was talking to him about patterns, right? And I said to him after a while, I'm the idiot for not preparing to respond to the pattern that I see,
Right.
right? So then what do we do? What are some things we do? You know, we start to prepare ourselves, extra flashlights, battery operated heaters, you know, a cooler, you know, somewhere, a deep freeze cooler somewhere, non-perishable food somewhere, right? Maybe even to the extent of a small generator. So if nothing else, next time the power goes out, it becomes less of a convenience,
Right.
right? And then it becomes more of a principled failure of the organization to not only say, and I think that you're correct, to say that you know, there should not be an expectation to pay the bill. I completely agree with that. But we have to always be advocating for ourselves, to put ourselves in a place where we are
That's
less
key.
impacted
That's key.
by things that arise in life, especially things that present themselves as a pattern. You know, you see things happening over and over, to prepare yourself to respond in a way that becomes beneficial to you. You know, takeaway number 2 probably should be learn to advocate for yourself. You know, and I say that a lot to people because so many people, like present company included, all the way included. A lot of us are geared in our lives, especially like in the lives of ministry. If you're doing ministry, if you're doing social outreach, if you do, you know, any of those things, we're geared to help others. We're geared, responsive, on point to help others. But when we have an issue, when it's us, you know, we don't advocate for ourselves. So that we don't have a plan in place to respond for ourselves.
Right.
You know, we don't have a plan in place to be our own self that shows up in our own issue,
Right.
in our own trauma, in our own circumstance, right?
Right.
We're the one who shows up. You know, we're the person that gets the call for prayer.
Absolutely.
Right. What do you do when you need prayer? I used to say all the time to what's up, Pastor Starks?
Hey,
I used to say all the time,
bestie.
hey baby, my baby got on.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey baby, my baby.
But go ahead. You used to say all the
I
time.
can't now, I'm shy.
Come on.
I used to say all the time to our congregants, you should be the person you call when you need prayer.
Wow.
At the beginning and end of the day, your personal relationship with God should be the thing that all you need. Like I've honestly, in the past 15 years of my spiritual life, I've never encountered a time where I needed someone to come and pray me through. I don't even know what that means. It's such a cliche and so if I'm having an issue in my relationship with my wife, I don't need anyone to intercede between me and my wife. I can go to my wife directly because we have that relationship.
Right.
Now, if you don't have that relationship, you may need somebody to
Right.
intercede, right?
Right.
So if you don't have that relationship, then call somebody,
Right.
right? But at some point, you should have a relationship where I don't need to call my pastor to pray for me because I'm in in emotional distress.
I think with that, it takes. I'm sorry, somebody was calling on my phone. I think with that,
Your
it
arm, I would
takes.
have loved to see you reach across the stage and touch that phone.
I would have.
I would have literally been
I
your power.
think. Would you focus?
I'm sorry. I'm focused. I just know how long your arms are.
I would. This is the challenge when you have him on.
Advocate for yourself.
This.
Advocate for yourself. Be a relationship. Put yourself in a place where as change happens, right? As change approaches, even if it's a drop of a dime, and wow, again, I was just having this conversation with my son, that chance favors the prepared mind, that start to align yourself in life in a way that your response to change is already mapped out, is already prepared.
What I was going to say was when you're talking about, because Bishop Somerville said, what do we do when we need prayer?
Yeah.
And I think at times what happens for, I'll say the bishops, the apostles, the pastors, I think over time we've learned that I may not be able to call on somebody else. I need to depend on Jesus in this moment and be able to pray for myself. But I don't think most people know that or even understand that.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
I don't think that they know.
Even to Bishop Somerville's point, if you do find that need when you need someone, right, or you need somebody else to join you in the advocacy of your issues, then be proactive to advocate for yourself enough to get yourself in a support group, get yourself around some other people who are like-minded and trustworthy and faithful, and you know what I mean, can be trusted with your issues. So proactively, if we know life is going to happen, and life is going to happen, right?
Right.
And change is inevitable.
Right.
Right? So if we know that, regardless of our position in life, at work, in church, in your family, regardless of that, life is going to happen. One of the ways you advocate for yourself is to advance that thought. Prepare yourself for when life happens.
A key word is prepare. Preparation.
What's that?
Preparation.
Preparation.
Key word. Most people are not prepared.
Right.
Most people are not prepared.
Right.
Like, thank you. Like, so talking about, hey, sweetie. That's true.
Hey.
Most people.
Hey, Rick.
Okay, so talking about my house, I'll talk about my house. So, I'll talk about my house. This was the 4th time that it happened. So yes, I had a heater, right? Actually went and got another one, so we would have 2. But that was just downstairs. Now, yes, heat rises, but it still was so cold. Sure. So my next thought was, I'm going to get a backup generator. You know what I mean? So that so that we can, at least for phones in case of emergency, the whole 9. I remember when my lights went out at the old house, and you came by with the portable chargers, But here's the thing. Most people are not prepared.
Right.
I am, because this is my first house that I want myself.
Right.
No man in the house. Right.
So
I have to prepare myself.
Right.
But most people don't. Some people succumb to, I don't have anybody. That's crazy.
Right.
So you gonna freeze because you don't have nobody to help you?
You got you.
Exactly.
And you should
That's
have
my
you.
point.
Yeah, you should have you. You should have you.
But I'm just saying it.
Yeah. We have to prepare ourselves, our hearts, our minds, our intellect, our psyche, all of that, to really put ourselves in a place where our own advocacy becomes essential, because change will happen. Life will happen. Something will come about that's going to be unexpected, that's going to toss the monkey wrench you know, into it, and you need to be able to respond and do so in a way that's not going to leave you distraught and destroyed, you know, on those fronts. And listen, it may be just the fact that now that we're talking about this, guys, that now you start to put together a plan.
Right.
And now you start to sit down and say, what do I do if the lights go out?
Right.
What do I do if I lose my job? What do I do if I become ill?
Like,
what do I do if...
right now, with what's going on in our government, we have people who are out of work, well, not being paid, not out of work, but not being paid. Right. So, was there a plan in place? Right. You know, is there what they call a contingency plan?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
In place. And right now we're seeing, and this is something else that I'll point out. Right now we're seeing people who are really at the brink of losing their homes. Some of them can't pay their car note. Right. Can't pay their health insurance. Right. You know, I heard someone, this was last week, the lady, something about her health insurance, and she could not pay, you know, for that premium or whatever she's supposed to pay a month. Right. She had to go to take care, you know, she was having a test done, could not do it. This involved her health. Right. So what do you do? Right. And then you have, I mean no harm, and honestly, can I just say this? I could care less if you hear it or not. President of the United States. You have someone who probably has never really suffered without as much as most of the people that are out of work, as he's never suffered in that manner. You know what I mean? You have billions of dollars. I have yet allegedly, but I have yet to see, did he say he will go without being paid? Or no, he told his staff to go without being paid. Yes. Exactly my point. You know, like things
Sorry, it's
like
not
that.
Funny, it's just comical.
Things like that. Like it bothers me. You know what I mean? So then how do we what can we do to help in this change process? Yeah, so with helping those people.
Yeah, that's a huge topic. It's a huge topic. But truthfully, the answer doesn't change. You know, life is going to happen, change is going to happen. And the more prepared we are to advocate for ourselves, and the more responsible we are in our society and our community to advocate for each other, the better off we'll be. You know, some of the real problem here is in government, there are a lot of people who have forgotten that their role in government is to advocate for people. You know, so a lot of the politicians that sit in the Senate, that sit in Congress, that sit in the White House, either have forgotten or never learned that their actual position is supposed to be for the people. You know, that their role there is to advocate for the people and not to advocate for lobbyists and not to advocate for big business. You know, not to advocate for personal agenda, but but to advocate for the people, on behalf of the people. You know, so here it is. What do I say ultimately? How do we adjust to change? We have elections in this country. Prepare yourself for change. You know, there was a big change the last election. You know, there's another one in a couple of years. Create change. You know, but you have to prepare yourself for it. You still have to prepare yourself intellectually for change.
I was getting ready to say, which involves, now I gotta know who I'm voting for, what they stand on, what, you know, what I believe, you know, are they in those avenues or those veins of belief? And if not, you know, we gotta do our research. One of the challenges in the body of Christ, which at times bothers me, is that we don't do our research. We don't study. The Bible clearly tells us to study to show right?
Mhm.
We don't study, so we're not showing anything. And then when the enemy comes and wants to wreak havoc in our lives, we have nothing to show because we haven't studied, we haven't sat down to get anything, to gain anything. So
Plus-
how do we?
Plus, the church teaches to not buck authority. The church teaches to not push back against leadership. The church teaches to sit and be quiet, even though the body suffers. So, why would they take this out of the church and do something different in society? They do the same thing in society.
I'm just
I
quiet
mean, we
because
teach what
I'm
we
just.
teach, right?
Listen.
Churches, y'all hear me say it over and over and over. Something is wrong in your church if you cannot question your pastor. Something wrong. That's just not the way it should be.
Let me play devil's advocate.
You can play every advocate you want.
I'm gonna
I'm
play
a
devil's
self-advocate
advocate. I'm gonna play devil's advocate because I hear you.
Takeaway 3, question authority.
Woo.
Question authority. If Jesus opened himself up to questions and had the wherewithal to sit patiently, listen to them, and then respond,
I think here's
check in
the
there.
other thing.
Devil's advocate.
Devil's advocate.
Well, let me eat this.
You don't question your pastor because what he or she say goes. Well, if my pastor is telling me something that I cannot find in the word, identify in the word, I'm just supposed to go along and not say anything or ask questions? No!
I tell them they
That's not even, that's not even smart.
right.
No, we tell our children all the time.
I'm not even
if you-
smart.
When you go to school and you don't understand something, you ask questions. And here's the thing, because I know, growing up in school, I remember, matter of fact, I remember sitting in my English class, Miss Danish, and people would get mad at me, talk about why you gotta keep asking questions, because I wanna know. If I don't know, I need to ask.
Because you're in school for what?
Knowledge.
You in church for what?
Knowledge.
You can't ask questions.
But I think some
And
people.
some people saying, well, that's what Bible study's for. That's what Sunday school is for. Listen, I would tell y'all better go back and take a real look at what the institutionalization of church is about.
Most people are not gonna do that.
I'm saying you need to. Or you can go ahead and continue to be sheep. You know, continue to be led. Continue to be ignorant. You know, but they take that, but people carry that. And here's another thing about
But are we
change.
supposed to be sheep?
Here's
I'm
change.
playing devil's advocate.
No, we're not supposed to be sheep. We're not supposed to be sheep, right? It's the fact that he saw us as sheep. We were considered sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly to say, you're correct, bro. It's not sad to say I'm correct, man. The reality might be sad, but me being right no, I'm just messing with you. Bishop Somerville says, historically the church has said that whatever happens, the Lord will fix it. Right, but this may very well be bad theology. Yes, it is bad theology. If anyone lacks knowledge, let him ask. Great quote. If anyone lacks knowledge, let him ask. Great quote. Then absolutely right. You know, God is not a magician. God is not a genie where you rub in the bottle and you ask him to fix things. I distinctly recall the last words of Christ. Like the real last words. Not just all the sayings that we go through. I remember the last thing he said before sacrificing himself on the cross. He said, it's finished. The work I had to do down here, I've completed it. I'm done. I'm done, it's over, I'm finished. I did every single thing
Wow.
I was tasked to do, including handing over power, responsibility, and accountability to you to do the rest or to do the next. I'm
That's
through.
good. That's good.
He like, I advocated for the poor.
That's good.
I advocated for the disenfranchised. I advocated for women's rights. I advocated for mass incarceration. I advocated against government control.
Yes, Bishop.
Right?
I
Bishop
love
Somerville said, allow me to add, God isn't afraid of our questions. Yeah, right. Exactly.
that.
Right.
How about
Exactly.
that?
Exactly. Not
We just gotten, I think,
test me now. See if I won't do it.
man.
You know, and I'm trying to keep this focused on change, because even as you should want change in your life.
Right.
You should want change, and if you don't want it, it is still needed. You should be uncomfortable with the fact that you have remained spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, physically in the same place for 10, 12, 20 years.
I would say there's something wrong.
You should, that's where disease sets in.
Wow.
When something is stagnant, when it's no longer running, that's when disease shows up. Chocolate, go ahead.
Man,
I
you
haven't had
said
chocolate
something.
so
That's when
long.
disease shows up.
That's when disease shows up. When you have water that just sits,
Right.
it becomes stagnant. That's when disease sets in. Disease, though, it's harder for disease to set into running water.
Right.
It's always moving, it's refreshing itself, it's cleaning itself. The water that moves cleans off the rock, cleans off the algae. When you have water that just sits, it becomes laden with mosquitoes,
Right.
becomes infested with debris,
Right.
becomes bad, stagnant. Your life does the same thing. As you sit, as you fail to grow, as you fail to move forward, your life becomes stagnant. That's when disease will set in. And I'm not talking about physical disease. I'm talking about mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual disease sets in. You know, it's when negativity can set in. It's when the ills of life can set in. So here's a cultural thing for us as Christians, right? So culturally, we come from a background where we were not allowed to learn to read the language that was presented in this continent during slavery.
Right.
Y'all notice I didn't say we were illiterate, because we weren't illiterate, because
Right.
slaves were actually still capable of reading their own language, speaking their own language, and writing and communicating their own language. It was just outlawed.
Right.
They weren't allowed to do it. So slaves were not illiterate, right? They just were not taught to read English language, right? They were forbidden to read and circulate English language, right? And so what happens is we then go to a church where there is a leader that reads the Bible for us and translates it for us, because they were incapable of doing it themselves, right?
Right.
And so we learn through the storytelling, the repetition
Right.
of having something told to us, right?
Teach.
So
Dr.
here we
Ward.
are in 2018,
Come on, Dr. Ward.
where we have culturally now have the ability to read and understand English, write and communicate in English, right? Why do you still show up in your places of your institutions of spiritual learning, allowing someone to still just read to you? You show up, you don't have nothing. We got capabilities. I got the Bible on tap. Anytime, boom, 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 whatever is there, right? No physical Bible, no electronic Bible. You still have things read to you. You still have people who are telling you things that you take at face value that you won't go and research and look up for yourself. Then you get mad later in life when you find out that you were told something that's incorrect. Then you get mad and you say, oh, the pastor been lying to me all this time. Christianity been lying to me all this time. You know, when the truth is, if you just study it and look at it and learn it and learn it for yourself, you gotta find out, it ain't lying to you.
What happened to us taking responsibility for,
Possibility, accountability,
yes,
and power to do the next
Right.
thing.
right,
Right.
right,
But we don't do it because we still, as Bishop Somerville said, we're still, looking to others to do it. And that's just the teachings.
right.
So here it is. The change has to happen. You want to know what one of the most detrimental things in the modern African American church, as I say, African American church, right? The black populated church in America is the lack of need for change,
Wow.
the status quo.
I,
Let's keep doing what we've been doing,
Lord.
right? We'll wait and they'll come to us.
I just said to somebody the other day, I said that I do not want to do church as usual.
Mhm.
I'm going back to doing my Empowerment Sundays.
Mhm.
I don't want, the reason why I had not done them, one, the Lord told me, for a season, I need you to do this.
Mhm.
Because there's some other things that I need you to have before you, because the next is going to be greater than what you started out. So yes, God. So I said to the Lord, I said, God, what do I do with Empowerment Sundays
Mhm.
that will not be the norm?
Mhm.
If that makes sense. Like, I don't want to do church as usual. And God said to me, he said, and I remember him saying this when we first started the ministry years ago. And you know what he said to me? He said, Dana, just obey my voice.
Okay.
Obey me. Do what I say. How I say. Because here's the thing. Sometimes folks is worried about people coming in. We want folks to, come into the church. We want the church to be, everybody. We want
Right.
a whole bunch of people.
Right.
Well, if there's one or two and you are impactful with one or two, those one or two next week gonna bring 2 or 4.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
But the point is
Right.
to be obedient
Right.
to the voice of God. If you obey, do what he says, change will come
Yes.
because you are doing what he says do.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Most leaders don't understand the impact of word of mouth and personal reference, right? So when you look at a church and say, why isn't my church growing? The response is because your people are not being impacted.
Who?
Because if your people's lives are being impacted, they're going to go and tell the other people that are suffering around them, come, I'll introduce you to a man who told me all about myself.
Come on, come see a man.
Right. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the harsh reality, and this is so there's a lot of that in this book. There's a lot of that in this book, right? Because the preparation for change as leaders has to be a true introspective into your organization and into your leadership style, into what you're doing as a leader, to take a real look to say, hey, Kia Fields, must be a real look into your leadership to say, where do I change? Where do I grow? I had the wonderful opportunity to sit down with a dear friend of mine who pastors and been pastoring a long time, and would be what people would consider to be successful in pastoring. And he was interested in how do we change the church to properly work with millennials, right? And I was saying, well, you're not really asking the right question. I'm like, you're close to it. Because the right question is, as a leader, how do I change to now be able to be effective with millennials? Because if the leader changed, then he can affect change within the organization.
Right.
You know what I mean? Instead of a leader saying, how do I change the organization? Right? It has to be, how do I change?
Right.
And then how do I affect it? Same thing in your home. In your home as a parent, you know, you don't always start with how do I change my children because they're presenting, you know, behaviors that are not consistent with what I'm desiring. The
Right.
question becomes, well, how do I change to greater affect them in a way that's going to be, you know, more beneficial to
Right.
them? Bishop Somerville said, "Oh, two things. He making points now. Come on, Bishop. Point one. Somebody get on the organ. No. Time is far gone by for church as usual. Yes. Yeah. Normal should be change.
Mm.
So your norm
Normal
should
should
be
be
change.
changed.
Right. And lack of change should be an abnormality. That should be weird.
Wow,
It
normal.
has to be weird that we're not changing. If you look around and you're like, nothing has changed in the past year, something is wrong. Like that should put up a flag. You should be nervous. Completely agree. Church as usual. Because, you know, church as usual, anything as usual, was built, created, structured, and organized to deal with that time.
I like that. That should have been I'm sorry.
Which they
That should have been normal
What's up,
should
Mr.
be
Mudd?
changed.
Normal should be change.
And when it is not, it is abnormal.
Right.
I like that.
Right. So your norm should be changed. You should be expecting change. That should be your expectation in your organization, in your life, in whatever facet it is. Because change is inevitable. Change is inevitable.
What's number 2?
What's up, Sister Vera?
Hey, Vera.
Bishop's second point. Leaders are so afraid to change, to do something new, different. Dare I say, evolve.
Wow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr.
Wow.
Mudd, I think you're old enough now. Please feel free to call me Will. We've known each other for 20-some years, and I know I knew you as a child, but you're a grown man with kids, I believe, too. So you go ahead and feel free. Call me Will, or if you're uncomfortable with that, call me Doc. I love you, man. I hope all is well down there in the Florida. Sister Vera's at work. That's why she's late. Sister,
Vera, it's all right,
you don't want to hear
baby.
no excuse. Oh.
You better.
That's what we meant. It's all right. No, it's all right, sis. Love you.
But you see me, Vera, I was about to.
She's about
Get
to
it.
get our feelings hurt. What's gonna happen?
Whatever.
Cause she knows.
What? Be ever.
So change is not only inevitable; it should be expected. You should desire change. Now, you have to get to the place where you desire change. You have to learn to look for change and want change, right? Because we hear those cliches that sink into our existences. You know, I'm in my comfort zone.
Wow.
Right? That we're somehow looking towards a goal that's set for us. That when we reach that goal,
That's
I'm there.
right.
You know, I'm
That's
good.
the it. That's
Right.
the end.
Yeah, and that's not really how life is. You know, life should be set your goals, but make your goals part of the transition of life. Make sure that your goal is I'm gonna get here and then I'm gonna do what? You know, I'm gonna get here, then I'm gonna do what? I'm killing him on Words with Friends. That is so petty.
So, let
Vera?
me, do you know what the acronym for change is?
No,
You remember it?
No,
You don't?
no.
Christ has allocated new governmental empowerment.
Okay,
CHANGE.
okay.
We have to break that down another time. That is a lot.
You know them with their
Acronyms,
acronyms sometimes.
but they're good.
Me and Len we used to call y'all the acronym church. We'll go up to the acronym church real quick. See what they doing up at the acronym church.
At the acronym
That's good.
church.
That's good though. That's good. Say it again.
Christ
Christ
has allocated new governmental empowerment.
Governmental empowerment.
which
Okay.
is really
I
all
don't-
of what you
I had
just
to
talked
listen,
about.
yeah. We had to unpack that.
No,
Let's
you
unpack
said
that.
it. Listen,
Okay.
Christ, when you said it's finished,
Right.
he's given
Yes.
all power.
Yes.
Christ has allocated,
Uh-huh.
meaning he's given all power,
Uh-huh.
right?
Right. I wish
He
you would know.
knew,
Right.
this is not, again,
Uh-huh.
and
What's the
greater
new
work shall
government?
you, and greater work shall you do,
Right.
right?
Right.
Government meaning So when I think about government, so when you talk about government, normally when you say the government is so and so and so, what does that mean to you? Or the government shall be
So I be thinking
upon
of
his
federal
shoulders.
government. I be thinking, you know, a hierarchical, earthly institutions.
Right.
Yeah.
So if he has allocated new government, meaning he has given you all authority, right, to be able to make that hierarchical change
Okay.
and empower people in that.
Okay.
You
I didn't
understand?
say I disagree.
No. I was just saying, because everything that you were saying,
Get the book, yo.
everything that you were saying was
Yeah, I agree
speaking to
with that. I
that.
like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
But so
I'm
yes,
sorry, I didn't know it.
let's get say your book again.
Say your book again. This is Sharp Winds Against Tall Buildings, an anthology for change. Helps you prepare your mind, helps you prepare your organizations, helps you prepare yourself for change.
I have my book.
Embrace change.
And
Change
how,
is
can we
inevitable.
tell how much?
You can go online. It's Googleable.
Google
Yeah, just Google Sharp Winds Against Tall Buildings. Or
Sharp Winds Against Tall Buildings.
Yes.
Google it. Get the book, you guys. It is good.
Or if
I
you
have
just hit us up, yeah, you hit us up here. You know, you can just buy books to us.
Yep.
Yeah, hit us up. We've got books here. We've got books.
All right, so let's go. Let's finish out because you gotta go, and I gotta go. So, you guys remember 3 takeaways. Number 1 was change is needed, is necessary. Number 2 was learn to advocate for yourself. And number 3 was question authority.
Question authority.
Question authority.
Question authority. There should be change. If authority is not changing, is not willing to change, listen, I left a job 2 years ago because the people that were in authority above me were not interested in change.
Wow.
They just wanted to do the status quo. They didn't want to grow, they didn't want to change, they didn't want to evolve, just wanted to keep things the way they were, which was stagnant and broken and not working and not best practices. And you know what I mean? We have to be challenging ourselves for that. If you work at a place, your interest, your integrity should be asking, what are best practices? You know, what's a better way to do this? How does this get better? How does this grow? You know, how do I manage and lead my family better? You know, how do I show up in my personal life better? How do I grow emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, economically? You know, because life is gonna happen.
Yes, it is.
Change is going to happen. We have to prepare ourselves to deal with the eventuality of change.
All right, guys, thank you for joining us today on Live at 5 Takeaway Tuesdays, our first Takeaway Tuesday of the year. We absolutely, positively love you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. Those of you who have been praying for me, thank you. I'm doing better. I'm still a little congested, but I'm doing better, y'all. Lights is on. Y'all know how I feel about the whole lights thing. The lights are on in the house. Thank you, Lord God, for the whole block. Because it's not just about me. I be concerned about my neighbors too. So thank y'all for praying for Pastor Dana. God bless you. I will see you tomorrow right here
Don't say peace yet.
with yours truly.
What's the score with me and Vera?
The score with you and Vera is 216. Dr. Will, Vera 188. Vera, come on, you gotta beat him. You gotta represent us, my sister. I love y'all. Have a good one. Bishop Somerville, I love you. We'll talk soon. Daddy, you know you the bomb. I love you.